Good morning, detectives. Today for our read aloud, we're going to do The Mitten, written and illustrated by Jan Brett, one of my favorite authors. And some of you might know her from Gingerbread Baby, or her version of The Three Bears, or Annie and the Wild Animals. She has a ton of books that we've read before, so if you know Jan Brett, you can connect. And the best thing about Jan Brett books are the pictures, because she always puts little clues in her illustrations about what's going to happen next in the story. So as I'm reading, I want you to be looking for those clues. The Mitten by Jan Brett. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. At first, his grandmother Baba did not want to knit white mittens. If you drop one in the snow, she warned, you'll never find it. But Nicky wanted snow white mittens, and finally Baba made them. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you still have your snow white mittens." So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of his new mittens dropped in the snow and was left behind. Just like Baba thought. A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. So a mole is kind of like a mouse. It's a small animal that lives underground. So look for a clue. What animal do you think is going to come along next? A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in feet first. The mole didn't think there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. Who do you think's coming next? Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered with prickles, they made room. So now we have a mole, a rabbit, a hedgehog, and who's coming next? As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled, but when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. All right, let's keep track here. We have a mole, a rabbit, a hedgehog, and an owl. Who will be next? Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left, but when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. All right, let's keep track. We've got a mole, a rabbit, a hedgehog, an owl, and a badger. Who's next? It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. Oh my goodness, look how big that mitten is getting. All right, we've got a mole, a rabbit, a hedgehog, an owl, a badger, and now a fox. Who's next? A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be, but what animal would argue with a bear? The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pooled and bulged to many times its size. but Baba's good knitting held fast. Okay, we've got a mole, a rabbit, a hedgehog, an owl, a badger, a fox, and a bear. Who's next? Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wriggled into the one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. What do you think might happen now that there's a mole, a rabbit, a hedgehog, an owl, a badger, a fox, a bear, and a mouse inside of this mitten? The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Achoo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost mitten silhouetted against the blue sky. As he ran to catch his snow-white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. But look, the mittens don't look the same anymore. One of them got all stretched out and Baba looks very confused. So boys and girls, the reason I chose this book is because it has a special type of pattern in it called a growing pattern. So we know that patterns always repeat, but sometimes they also grow. In this story, the mole repeats on every page. The mole is always in the mitten. But on each page, the pattern grows to include a new animal. So it starts out just mole, but then it goes mole, rabbit, then mole, rabbit, hedgehog, then mole, rabbit, hedgehog, owl, and on and on and on. So I've made a graph to show that growing pattern, and I'll put it on class tags so your parents can show it to you. But my job for you today is to make your own growing pattern. You could use blocks, you could use cubes, you could use coins like pennies, anything that you find around the house. I want you to try and make a growing pattern that gets a little bigger each time. Look at the picture I made of all the animals in the mitten to help you out. Also, if I haven't talked to you in a few days, give me a call. I miss you guys. I love getting to talk to you and see your faces. So give me a call this week. I'd love to see it. And when you've made your growing pattern today, take a picture and send it to me. Bye.